Who's in just Rex, and this is Wacky War Tactics in another nutshell by channel BlueJay. Yes, BlueJay, I've reacted to a fefew videos from BlueJay and it was really good. This is the only channel that comes closest to, I guess, Salmonella style of videos. I know there was a literal copy parody style of a channel there before Salmonella came back. But this is, without directly copying it, this is the closest thing to Salmonella, I'm pretty sure. So this channel has great topics, same wacky topics for the history type of things. This is war tactics type of things. I'm pretty sure I remember watching a Russian ship video, how the Russian ship journey, whatever that was. There are a certain video where they shoot at civilians and shit. That was so good. So this is another video of it. The worst radioactive ideas in nuclear history. Damn. All the topics from this channel is ridiculous. There's another video. Alright, let's watch this one first. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't subscribe. So I don't know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the reaction. This is a link in the description. And yeah, that's what you're doing.
So, I was looking through my YouTube analytics the other day and discovered two things. One, not nearly enough of you are subscribed, and two, my audience male to female ratio is unacceptably masculine and would easily make my channel the lamest frat party on campus. Now, to solve this, I did some research on female-dominated YouTube categories and found some topics like beauty, style, East Asian music. The last one aside, I think this explains why my recent videos have thankfully brought
Yeah, that's about right. That's what he did. That is the East Asian music that's so famous, not K-pop, that's...
music. The last one aside, I think this explains why my recent videos have thankfully brought in more ladies. Now it's just about keeping this momentum going until I hit a 50-50 split. So today, we're going to talk about the wackiest ways people have tried to murder each other in military history.
Yep, that will bring more women.
Now, if you're anything like me, your interest in learning about creative strategies used in history is only surpassed by your disgust for the state of Missouri. Thinking they're hot stuff with their stupid bendy tube in the sky, they just drive by and say, haha, look, it's like McDonald's but half, before heading on to a better state. Well, luckily, you can both satisfy your itch for strategy and urge to level the state of Missouri in Conflict of Nations World War III. Conflict of Nations is a free online PvP strategy game where you get to pick a country to lead in a modern global warfare scenario. I played the Battleground USA scenario where you get to play as a US state, and I was a big fan of the fact that in my first game playing as Illinois, I was perfectly positioned to send fighter jets to bring about the much deserved destruction of St. Louis. You can declare war on your neighbors, forge alliances, and choose your own strategy as you coordinate in battles of up to 120
United States can fight with each
other.
Don't
have a computer handy? Not to worry. You can play on the same account across both your PC and your phone. Technology is crazy. So click the link in the description in the next 30 days to get 13,000 gold and 1 month of
either that game is too bad and people will be pissed off, or that game is ahead of its time apparently.
Subscription for free. Big thanks to Conflict of Nations for sponsoring the video. Ancient Egypt. Cool place, right? I mean, how could you not love what's basically a Yu-Gi-Oh theme park? The ancient Egyptians were a quirky folk, known for practices like wrapping mummies and cherishing life. You know, things that have no place in today's world. The Egyptians saw life as a gift from the gods, and they loved all the lovely critters in the animal kingdom so much that they made them pets, made them mummies, made them cops. Baboon police was a thing, look it up. But nothing quite compared to their love of cats. These furry felines were admired for their rodent catching skills and their magical and divine connection to the cat goddess Bastet. This meant that cats and animals were a sacred cornerstone of ancient Egyptian culture, a culture that the Persian king Cambyses II was very well educated in. It's the 6th century BCE, and the Persians are looking at everything not Persia, noting the unacceptable lack of Persianness, which can only be fixed with the addition of yet more Persia, and next in line for their Persian conversion excursion was their cat-loving neighbors down south. Cambyses II took his Persian army to meet the young Egyptian pharaoh Psamtik III at his fortified position at Pelusium, according to stratagems by...
Polyaenus.
Polyaenus, the Egyptians were initially keeping the Persians at bay before Cambyses II decided to switch tactics. Our forces are stalled, sir. We're gonna need to do something if we want to gain the upper hand. Do not fret, plebiscius, for I have studied the Nile folk and discovered a vital weakness. They shall cower in fear before the peril of my new ultimate weapon. Okay. Copernicus, bring forth the kitten trebuchet. Wait, trebuchet? Oh, we thought you said paper mache. What, so you didn't build my weapon or bring any cats? Oh no, we brought cats. We always bring cats. I think you missed a golden opportunity with catapults, sir. Shut the fuck up, grab the kittens. What? Grab the fucking kittens, Pulvicius. In one of the first recorded instances of psychological warfare, Cambyses II had his men paint the image of Bastet on the front of their shields and spread cats and other animals before their front lines. The Egyptian defense, upon seeing this display, refused to fight for fear of hurting the animals or striking the image of their goddess, resulting in the surrender of Pelusium. This left many.
Oh, this is so good. This is what happens when your religion is too stronger and too spread out. People can take advantage. This is so good, man. Person's like, they find cats sacred. I wonder I can do something with this. That was some awesome wacky tactic.
Egyptians to be massacred as they retreated to Memphis, which would fall shortly after. Now, I bet you're probably thinking, that's dumb, they're just cats. How could that possibly undermine an entire defensive strategy? But keep in mind, these cats were the divine symbols of their gods, to be protected at all costs, else risk the eternal damnation of their soul. So, switch out cats with Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, and you get the idea. Think of early submarine warfare, your mind probably wanders to the German U-boats that terrorized the high seas during the more than adequate war. But what if I told you that the first successful combat submarine was actually built from an old steam boiler by a bunch of southern boys in Alabama? I'm talking, of course, about the H.L. Hunley. Named after the lawyer turned Confederate Marine engineer Horace Lawson Hunley, this adorable little fish boat was designed to fight for the South in the American Civil War. Now, many thought Hunley was motivated by good old Southern patriotism and protecting the basic human right to suppress other people's basic human rights, and normally that's a reasonable assumption to make of a Confederate. But in actuality, Hunley's driving force to build a submarine was much more noble. War money. You see, whichever lucky southern boy or girl was able to sink themselves one Yankee float would earn themselves a grand prize of up to $50,000 from Uncle Scooter, the equivalent of $1.3 million today. So Hunley and a group of engineers built and tested the hand-powered...
Yeah, see, that's the thing. People with drive, obviously, usually comes with some kind of a greed. So, yes, you will have patriots and things like that. We want to protect our ways, let's just say. There will be southerners like that, right, during the war. But yeah, the real people will be like who have some big ambitions, big drives that usually involves money. So 50,000 bounty, yeah, some ingenious people will come out, try to do some ingenious thing basically right here. This is some ridiculous thing, seriously. They just build it like that.
Hunley in Mobile, Alabama, before it got shipped off to Charleston to deal with those Yanks and their pesky ironclads. The Confederacy began testing the Hundley in Charleston Bay with a crew unfamiliar with the controls, which is basically the same thing as asking a horse to babysit your newborn. The Hundley was preparing to depart on its first attack when there was an accident with the controls, causing it to sink with the hatch open at the dock, drowning 5 of its 8-man crew. But not to worry, a submarine can be drained and people are replaceable. The sub was recovered, cleared out of some junk, and was given good as new to Horace Hundley to take command before setting off on another test run, with a more experienced crew this time. Good luck on the test, Hunley. Don't worry, I invented this thing. Okay, you go get him. I will, Charles. Okay, Clyde,
he's not gonna come back.
The Hundley sunk again, killing its creator and crew. But not to worry, a submarine can be drained and people are replaceable. The Hundley was recovered and finally set off on its first combat voyage, targeting the USS Housatonic, blockading Charleston. The Hundley was originally intended to tow a floating mine into its target, but this plan was labeled too dangerous as the rope could get tangled or the mine could drift into the submarine itself. So instead, they thought it'd be safer to go with a spar torpedo, which was essentially a bomb. Attached to the end of a wooden stick. A spear, but with an aftertaste, if you will. The Hundley set off during the night, cranking its way towards its prey anchored 5 miles offshore. As the submarine approached, the crew of the Housatonic noticed a ripple in the water coming towards it. Enemy vessel off the port bow! Shit, it's below the water! Is that a whale?
It's Davy Jones.
Yarg, that's no whale, sonny. That be a beast of nuts and iron. Fire the guns! Phil, you're from Columbus, Ohio. Why are you talking like that? Fire the guns, you scallywag! Given the fact that submarines tend to operate below the waterline, the guns on board the Housatonic weren't able to lower far enough to fire at the Hundley, forcing the crew to fire away with their...
Do you remember that mission from Fallout 4, right, where a boy looks from the pier and there's that Japanese Yahtzee, whatever that submarine is, the thing comes on and is like, that's a sea monster. They probably thought something similar when that thing came out, right? Just to look what's happening.
Small arms to no avail. This plan is genius. Them Yanks can't even touch us. You got that right, Cletus. You got that right. Alright, boys, we're about to deliver the payload. Oh, yeah! In 3, 2, 1. The torpedo made contact with the hole near the ammo storage, exploding on impact and sending massive amounts of debris in all directions. The Housatonic sank within 5 minutes and resulted in the deaths of only 5 of her crew. As for the HL Hunley, the crew was safe from the actual blast itself, but their close proximity to the payload meant that they faced the full force of the shockwave propagating through the vessel, which tends to not agree with your soft tissues like your lungs or brain. So the entire crew of the HL...
This is what happened when you don't have advanced knowledge of physics, which around that time they didn't, obviously. But you're playing with some dangerous weapons, major scale weapons like that. You know, somebody should make that video, like how certain weapons were ahead of its time for the scale of it or what it represents, especially the lack of scientific knowledge. This is a great example of it. They thought, oh yeah, this is going to explode, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, we didn't thought of shockwave, because why would we?
Hunley died, and it sank for the last time after a single mission. At the end of its service, it was able to rack up a grand total of 26 kills. Only 5 of which were Northerners. It is a bit disappointing that the slave-loving land of traitors gets to claim the world's first successful combat submarine, but if it makes you feel any better, populating the high seas with over 4 times more rebel corpses than Union ones is about the most goddamn American thing you can do. And it would only be a year later that the Confederacy would decide to release their flag update 2.0. For the more than satisfactory war to really earn that promotion to World War status, it had to break out of the little European bubble it started off in. One potential area to expand the moderately stellar war was Africa, where they had already brought a little bit of Europe to in years prior without a wee bit of scrambling. However, because a lot of European control over Africa was superficial, they decided to keep the colonies neutral to avoid instability and the chance of getting overthrown by the local Africans. Ultimately, they agreed that the only thing more important than existential geopolitical conflict was ensuring white men.
Oh my god, this image is so horrifying. Look at that. The mask and the fucking machine gun. If you see that in today's world with all the technology, people are like, what the fuck, I'm not shooting at that. Even that would happen in a battlefield. But at that time, yeah, this is all normal. We are gonna have gas because people are attacking with mustard gas and God knows what. There you go.
Political conflict was ensuring white men on top. This neutrality agreement was very important to the Europeans, lasting an entire week before they changed their minds. Tanga was the busiest seaport on the coast of German East Africa, a colony that snuggled up closely with British East Africa. The Germans are right there. Oh, this simply won't do. This will not do. This won't do at all, Charles. Right then, India, take care of these blokes. Okay. Britain sent a request to the India office to attack the neighboring German colony, resulting in the dispatch of an expeditionary force 8,000 strong to the port town of Tanga. The Brits pulled up without a problem, and because the local Germans were such a puny and pathetic force...
Yeah, people think, British Raj basically taking out of India, that brought them riches, because of course it did with the spices and many things India could have, given British that they did, right? With the, strategic position and everything. But one of the also key point was men. Right, number of men. They're like, oh, look at that. Look, it's just awesome result. Let's just bring them in. World War I, it happened a lot. Hell, I didn't even know that the Indians fought in World War I, but of course they did. Why wouldn't they? But it's like, oh, look at that. Look at all those men. Let's just bring them here.
Decided to enter the town peacefully to give them the chance to surrender. Alright, bruv, gonna need you to lay down your guns. Ah, yes. Sorry, man, I can't make that call. Got ask the Kaiser man first.
Accents are killing me.
Bosses, I get it. Yeah, no worries. I'll give you blokes 1 hour to lower your flag over there. Is that okay with you? Ja, that would be great. Perfect. By the way, we anchored a bit offshore. Are there any mines in the harbor?
No.
Yes. They met up with a sneaky little German messenger who led the Brits to believe that the harbor was mined and pretended he had to get permission to surrender. This bought the Germans some valuable time to get reinforcements and prepare for an attack. After 3 hours, the Brits realized they just got bamboozled harder than if they'd pre-ordered a Battlefield game, so they started to land their exhausted and seasick troops on the shoreline a few miles out of town. In an attempt to make up for some lost time, and because intel is for nerds, no reconnaissance was done beforehand as the clueless troops
See, when you're invading somebody and you really ask for, is there mines? I mean, any answer is a problem answer. If they say no, then maybe there are mines, but they're just saying no, so we take a hit. If they say yes, are they being truthful or just trying to dupe us? I mean, no answer is right answer at that point. Why would you even ask?
began their two-pronged attack on the town. Concealed German defenders quickly broke apart this advance, as bullets tend to do, resulting in lots of disorganized skirmishes. The northern prong was actually making some pretty good progress. Despite some minor hiccups, like getting shelled by their own ship and retreating officers getting shot by their colonels, they managed to make it all the way to the customs house, where the Indian troops raised the British flag over the German colony on African soil. Their advance would be halted here, however, as they had to fall back to assist the southern prong, who weren't having as much luck. Those blokes were subjected to one of the new wonders of the war: machine guns. These life-reducing devices tend to sting a little, so they halted the Indian troops advancing in the south, which is totally understandable. Imagine waltzing up to a tube on a hunky metal tripod, magically sending 500 metal bees at your face every minute. Well, they didn't have to imagine that metaphor too hard.
I'm imagining as soon as those Indian soldiers walk up there and saw this with this smug face. You know how that Mercedes advertised says German engineering? It said that down, below that tripod place. German engineering.
As they were also swarmed by hundreds of real bees every minute. Flustered by all the machine gun fire, massive swarms of bees descended on the British troops from the surrounding trees. Maybe the bees sought to prove that not even the MG01 can compete with the misery that African wildlife is capable of, or perhaps it was just a desperate attempt to remedy a battlefield woefully underpopulated by bees. But either way, the Brits now had to deal with a war on two fronts.
Bees were biding their time. They're like, we're gonna pounce one of these days. And the war happens. Here comes Indian troops attacking Germany. They're like, boys, it's our time. Let's attack. Bees gonna take over this place. How you doing, boy?
Looks like someone's a little lost. The Indian troops frantically popped off more lead in all directions than a Detroit suburb, firing blindly at Germans in the bushes and bees in the skies to no avail. Now that Mother Nature had established air superiority, the southern prong broke off into a full retreat. However, the Germans would be mistaken if they thought the little buzzing militia was their ally, for the bees did not believe in the magic of friendship, only pain. So when the German troops entered the bees' territory, they too fell victim to nature's air force. In the end, the British would lose the battle despite drastically outnumbering the Germans, who they generously supplied with enough weapons and equipment to last them the rest of the slightly delightful war. The Brits took upwards of 800 casualties out of 8,000 troops, compared to under 150 German casualties of merely 1,000 defenders, making this one of the most embarrassing defeats of the above-average war. So at this point, I'm sure some of you are probably scratching your heads, wondering how little bee fiasco could be considered a wacky war tactic when their intervention was nothing more than random chance. An understandable but incorrect conclusion to make. To the untrained eye, it would seem like nothing but bad luck on the surface, but if you just look closely, you'd notice that this was clearly the work of none other than
Dr. Bees!
I try to avoid doing too many videos on war history, because...
Okay, he already did it? Wacky War Tactics in a nutshell. Oh, this is another nutshell, so he already did it apparently. Anyway, that was the video, I don't know. I did was the dumbest Russian voyage, that was great. Yeah, about the Indian thing, right? I'm pretty sure the not great command and not great training probably went into it as well, because these are Indian soldiers serving their British masters, attacking. I mean, what was there, first of all, what was the drive there to begin with? Like, we're fighting somebody else's war. On top of that, how were they trained in the first place? Did they trust the chain of command? There could be many things that goes into it. And Germans obviously.
The death. But humans are curious creatures, naturally drawn towards the dark, mysterious cesspools of misery in the world. Exactly the stuff that you can find when studying the horrors of war or playing League of Legends. Luckily, you can always count on the shenanigans of Persians, bees, and/or racists to help make overall grim topics a bit more digestible. But enough from me. What do you think, Life Lesson Leopard? Hello? Oh, hold on. My troops have just about finished decimating Missouri in Conflict of Nations World War III. You could speed up its destruction by clicking the link in the description. What a dumb state.
Is that
it's
what?
the stupid arch, right? Really overrated arch. Thank you. Wacky War Tactics Part 2. Yeah, 10 stars. By the way, I know it's a long wait between uploads, just kind of the way things go.
Okay, seriously, it's no longer, right to call BlueJay, Salmonella type channel. He's his own thing, because this video was such a great quality. This was 9 months ago, so I guess since then he has improved a lot. Because every single joke, every single thing, I mean, there wasn't a moment in this video where I'm not engaged and not laughing. So he's really high quality by now. I mean, he was already high quality, but he's like a top level. I hope his channel blows up with millions of subscribers soon, 2-3 million, whatever, because it does feel like that. Alright, well, that was Wacky War Tactics in another nutshell by channel BlueJay. If you like my next, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.